Thanks everyone for taking the time out of your busy day. My name is Zach Bailey. I'm the lead partner strategist here at Justuno. Anything strategy, CRO related, reach out to me. Love to see unique websites. Hit me up in my LinkedIn. Love to talk strategy. But I'm just excited to be with two of my partners here, Philip and Nigel. They've got some great content. I know I learned a lot with working with them regarding Headless, and it should be a great presentation today.
Yeah, and I'll jump in. Of course, as Zach and Michael mentioned, I'm Philip. So I work at Nacelle, and my background is, I've been in e-commerce for some time. Previously, I worked at Shopify. I help merchants essentially take a closer look at their business and understand where there's opportunities, how they can make more money, specifically going headless.
Yeah, and I'll jump in. So morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are. My name is Nigel. I'm the director here at Matter Design and Digital. We're a digital agency based in Sydney, Australia. We've been working with Headless for about the last 2 years. We're very heavily invested in that. We've got a number of clients live on it, and yeah, we're really passionate about this technology and what it means for e-commerce and the internet. So yeah, really excited to be here today.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so thank y'all for that. So yeah, we're here to talk all about Headless. And actually, I just thought, so with Headless sort of being a very exciting, but also it's not really new per se, but there's a lot of confusion around it. So I'm curious for our attendees today, what brought you to this webinar? Maybe what you hope to learn out of it. Are you a large brand that's, interested in going headless, or are you just, here just to learn? Or, I'd love to hear it. And that way we can kind of, make sure we get your questions answered. But before we dive in straight to the content here, we're gonna have Philip start us off in just a second. Some quick logistics for us all. This webinar is being recorded and it will be sent out tomorrow to everyone. Additionally, if you have any questions at all, throw them in the chat. We are here for you. That's the whole point. We want to talk about Headless. We want to talk about it all. So throw those questions into the chat or into the Q&A, and we would love to hear from you. So yeah, I'm gonna check the chat real quick. And yeah, representing Matter, learning, awesome, cool, good, love to see it. So great. So to start us off, what does Headless mean to you? And so it's kind of interesting, when we were first going through this webinar idea with Nigel and Philip and Zach, there's just a lot of definitions of it kind of going around. If you can Google it, and sometimes it's like super technical and kind of hard to understand. So I would love to hear from Nigel and Philip and Zach, like, in a blurb, what does Headless sort of mean to you? And Nigel or Philip, sorry, go for it.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is, that's a bit of a giveaway on one of the first official slides, so I don't want to say too much, but simply it's separating your front end from your back end systems. I'll just keep it at that, because I'll talk a little bit more about some of the advantages a little bit later. But yeah, separating your front end tech from your back end systems, is how I'd word it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's technically kind of decoupling your front end from all your systems behind it. And I think, it's one of these kind of buzzwords that's going around the industry right now. And I think it's, really cool that we can catch up and talk about it, because yeah, not everyone really understands what Headless just means, but because there's a lot of benefits to it, which we're going to talk about today. And I guess those benefits get attached to the word, but the word comes from that, decoupling of front end and back end.
Cool. And for me, just to, I'm not going to say dumb it down a little, but the thing I love about Headless is seeing those customized sites and how they stand out from the competitive crowd. We here in Justuno and in Nacelle and Matter, we see a lot of different websites because we're in the business of looking at websites. But when we see these fantastic headless designs, it's something that always just resonates with me because they look so unique. And that's the part that really interests me. But, I'm an artist at heart, so I love visuals.
Right on. Yeah, no, like you can always, once you can begin to tell what's a headless website, you can always tell. And like just they are just such clean, smooth experiences that, and certain companies that are large or whatever that do really, really interesting, cool things on the websites, that are very non-traditional. It's just incredible what they can do. But yeah, thanks for that, y'all. So we can dive right in though. So Philip, we're gonna start with you, and you're gonna take us through, well, you'll let us know where you can take us through.
Yeah, awesome. First slide is actually you can go right to the next slide. First slide is discussing a little bit about what Headless is, and I'm not going to cover too much here. There's another slide later on that gives a bit more of a visual of what it would look like with Nacelle as a data orchestration layer in this. But you'll see on this slide, there's kind of a diagram that shows your tech stack. So on the left-hand side of the diagram, you see Shopify Plus, you see a headless CMS. So this is where your tech stack is. And then on the right-hand side, you've got your progressive web apps. So this is what your customer would see. But as we all kind of mentioned or alluded to, going headless is separating your front end from your back end. So your back end systems that have your product inventory, that have your orders, that have your customer information, that have your content, having that separate from your front end, and then being able to serve it to your front end, to build your site and build a progressive web app. That's it, very simply, but we'll go into some of the detail of some of the benefits and take a closer look at what this looks like on some future slides. So next slide is, what are some of the benefits of going headless, why you should go headless, when you should go headless. So number one is if you're looking to innovate quickly, merchants that are able to use the best content management system, for example, can A/B test easily and efficiently. You can update your designs on the fly to suit the needs and wants of your customers. You would want to go headless if you're looking to increase flexibility. So we talked a little bit about having the front end and back end separated. What that allows you to do is, you essentially can have your tech stack be composable. So each component in your tech stack, each part of your system, whether it's the product inventory management system or your order management system or any of these pieces, can be dropped at any point. You can replace it if you find that your business has outgrown that software, or you just don't like it anymore, or there's new, better solution available. So that really allows your business to be flexible and continue growing using the best of brand solutions. Improving site performance. So there was a study by Deloitte that was called Milliseconds Make Millions. They uncovered that 0.1% improvement in site speed results in about an 8% uptick in conversion rate and about a 10% uptick in average order values. So those two numbers are probably, they speak volumes to maybe most people here. A lot of merchants that are looking to go headless are really interested in finding ways to improve their conversion rate and average order values. And these numbers in terms of site speed speak directly to conversion rate optimization and average order values. And I'm sure everybody knows that improving those metrics has a direct impact on your bottom line. Unlocking developer productivity. So developers are going to be able to write code in a language that they're comfortable with, and they can work in parallel. So you don't have one developer that, is, for example, if you're in Shopify and they have to write in Liquid and they're waiting, you've got a second developer that's waiting for the first one to finish writing their code before they can actually make changes. Increasing customization is another benefit. So you have the ability, back to content management, using a content management system. You can use best of brand solutions like Contentful, Storyblock, Sanity, that really allow you to personalize your site. So a little bit about what Zach was talking about, where you can really get creative. You can really create an incredible experience. You're not using a theme that's being used by a million other Shopify users out there. So that really allows you to personalize and customize your site. And then future proofing. So future proofing your tech stack is something that really allows you to scale your business over the long haul. I mean, customer expectations are constantly increasing, they're constantly evolving. And so, going headless lets you just rest assured that you're not going to get left behind. Your site is going to be performant, it's going to be fast, and it's going to allow you to swap out parts of your tech stack if any piece of your software or any component is kind of falling behind in terms of the technology or the value it's adding for your business. You can replace it to stay ahead of the curve. Cool. So how to go headless? This is pretty straightforward. I mean, I'm going to mention most of just what's on this slide. Most of you may already have, if you have an e-commerce site, you're probably already with a platform, for example, Shopify, Shopify Plus, or Salesforce, BigCommerce, Magento. Those are some of the big names. But if you're working with Nicelle, you can bring in your products, you can bring in your customer information, you can bring your order information from other systems as well. And so you're going to choose a platform that has this information, that stores this data. Then you're going to need a content delivery network that may be already included with your platform. I know that Shopify provides one. Or for the next piece, which is choosing a hosting provider, a lot of times they also offer a CDN, so you could use that too. But so you'll need CDN, a hosting provider. You'll want to use a content management system. So you'll choose a content management system that could be Contentful, Sanity, Storyblock, or others. You'll set up, in this case, if you're using Nicelle, you'll set up Nicelle to index data from the platform. And then you'll decide if you're going to be using an agency like Matter, for example, to create your front-end build. That's next. Yeah, perfect. So here's a general architecture slide with a very kind of simple example that shows where Nicelle lives. So I had mentioned that, on the right side, that represents your progressive web app. So that's, how you're building out your storefront. It's what your customers see. The left side is where all of those backend systems that you're using to provide information to build the storefront, that's where those are. So that could be Shopify Plus, as I mentioned, it could be Magento, whatever houses your PIM, your CRM, your OMS, and your CMS. And so Nicelle is essentially in the middle. Nicelle is taking all of these separate data sources, it's joining that data together, it's optimizing it, and it's making that data available in a single API to then use in your front-end framework, like Vue or React, to generate your site. That's, we can go to the next slide. One important piece for merchants to kind of consider as they go headless is like, are they going to be getting the benefits, the advantages that are talked about in going headless? And, a merchant could go headless and, they're probably going to see a speed improvement, but that doesn't mean that, as soon as you go headless, then you need to stop thinking about it. So here at Nicelle, we're focused on talking about it, on calls that I have with merchants. We'll take a look at their speed metrics. We'll use a tool like SpeedCurve to assess what their performance metrics are, what their core web vitals are, what their Google Lighthouse scores are, to see where there's opportunity to improve. And, we'll compare that to, different merchant averages, to what Google Lighthouse scores say are appropriate. We can take a look at some recommendations from Google Lighthouse. We can do code audits to see what can be done to continue to improve your site speed. So that's one way that we test and take a look at, merchant sites to make sure that merchants continue on the track of improving and staying ahead of the curve. Another aspect of testing is with your content management system. So it allows for A/B testing much more quickly and easily and efficiently than other solutions. And so that's pretty advantageous for a lot of merchants to be able to just try out different things to see what works to ultimately improve your conversion rate, potentially average order values and other parts of your customer funnel. Personalization is also a big component of going headless. So, your content management system, again, is an important piece. There's a merchant that came to Nacelle, and I'll actually talk about them on another slide, but they created a custom color palette selector, which was really neat way of personalizing their site that had a big impact on a number of their key performance metrics. But it really resonated with customers. Customers were able to choose their skin color and get recommendations of products that would actually be products that would work for them. There was another merchant that kind of at the beginning part of their site, they asked a couple key questions that would change the whole outlay of their site and what was offered, create a whole unique experience for customers, based on, what types of accessories they would have for the tool that they were using, or they needed accessories for. So, that went above and beyond just product recommendations, which are also, that's definitely a value add item, is having product recommendations. And here at Nacelle, we're constantly thinking about different tools and improvements that can be added on to sites to just create a better user experience overall. Because this whole piece that I'm talking about here with regards to testing and personalization, it's all about improving the user experience, which ultimately at the end of the day impacts your numbers and your ROI. So product recommendations can be hugely beneficial. It's something that we're working on. Also, inventory streaming. So it's never a great experience to be adding items to your cart and then get to checkout and find out, oh, that product's not available. So having a solution there, something with WebSocket technology where you can have live updates right on product pages, that tell your customers, hey, this item is out of stock. And then maybe pairing that with product recommendations can really improve the customer experience. Next slide. So this slide is really just kind of to summarize some of the benefits of data orchestration. So the data orchestration layer, it benefits merchants mostly in just making the tech side of your business easier to manage. That's probably a simple way of looking at it. You get faster development. You're able to reduce the amount of developers that you need. You get composability for your tech stack, which I mentioned earlier, and you have less likelihood of issues related to API call rates because you've amalgamated all of the different components in your tech stack into a single API. We'll go into the next slide. So this is a case study for a company called Ilia Beauty. They're a cosmetics brand that can be found in stores like Nordstrom and Sephora. Albert Chong is their head of digital, and he highlighted that their direct-to-consumer digital experience was the purest and most direct way for them to differentiate with their shoppers. What really stood out for them when they approached Nacelle was that they had actually done a lot of work, and they actually had a very fast site. But they really understood that every millisecond counts. And so they still embarked on their headless transformation. And so they were actually able to realize the near-term benefits of improving page load speed on mobile and desktop. But what was most impactful was that they were able to move to a new feature development. It was, improving the development side of the business. So they did what I kind of alluded to earlier or mentioned earlier, was they launched the Find Your Shade application, which is something that you really don't find anywhere else. And so it connected with the audience by matching skin tone to makeup shades. And it was just hugely beneficial for the business. We got some incredible feedback from the merchant, great reviews. And, the amazing thing that came out of this was they were able to do all of this with just one, experienced developer. So that was really the power of the modern commerce stack with Nacelle. We'll go to the next slide.
Oh, and Phil, actually, just quick, kind of curious, that QR code up there, is that a working QR code?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious if I can scan it real fast.
Yeah, give it a shot. I do believe it is. Yeah.
But we keep on going.
So this, I mean, the last slide was, summary of the value of using a data orchestration layer. But now to kind of highlight, some of the key takeaways for Headless in terms of site performance, because many times that's what a lot of, maybe less technical users are looking at Headless for. So first I'll mention, you get to use a best of breed hosting and content delivery network. So that's another piece that you get to select. That you get to separate out from, let's say Shopify. So you could use a provider like Vercel or Netlify or Cloudflare. And so this allows you to essentially have sites that are hosted and pre-generated closest to the user. So, I mean, I've talked a little bit about site speed, but, haven't really explained all the details of how that happens. And using a hosting provider is really a big component. So what using Vercel or Netlify or Cloudflare allows you to do is serve a site closest to the user. So you could essentially have multiple versions of the site built and have these versions of the site hosted in different places around the world. So let's say you have a customer visit from the other side of the world. Instead of the request to view your site, needing to travel halfway across the world to the server that has the build of your site, and then have to grab that information and send it back to the customer's computer, the request can actually go to a build of the site that is much more local to them, much closer to them. So, sometimes in the Headless community, we like to say that the speed of light is only so fast, and that's literally because it is. Having a request that's sent halfway across the world, or even not even that far, can really impact how long it takes for the initial page to load. So that's an initial page load time, and that can really be improved by having multiple builds in different locations. But there's also static site generation. So what can also be done is instead of having every customer's actions result in a new request to the server every time, let's say the customer wants to click on a new page on your site, and they need to wait for that new page to load. During that very first time they visit the site, the entire website could be built. It could be loaded into their computer's cache so that for all other clicks on the site, they don't actually have to wait, send a request to a server, halfway across the world, or even, it could be in the same state, but it's still, they don't have to send that request elsewhere. They now have the entire site downloaded on their computer. So it almost becomes instantaneous for the subsequent pages or actions to load. So that's really, one of the big advantages of going with a best of breed hosting provider is that you get access to site speed that allows for that. There's also increased agility for staging and development. So you get, I talked a little bit about working in parallel. Code can be hosted on GitHub or Bitbucket, which is the best of brand solutions for code development today. You get production and development environments as well. So increased agility and staging and development can be really big. And the last piece, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, is just a better customer experience, the conversion rate improvements, the average order value improvements. At the end of the day, all of that means more money in your pocket. And so, the impact on performance here is really what merchants are oftentimes looking for. That's actually there was one slide. I think that was, I don't know if you jumped back and forth or if it was out of order, but this is a case study for a couple merchants where you actually see the impact of, the performance gains that they saw by going headless. And, some of these numbers are really huge, and you can really understand the impact that would have on a merchant's bottom line. So Barefoot Dreams was a merchant that uses Nacelle, and they had a 64% increase in conversion rate. That resulted in their sales doubling. So, I mean, that kind of speaks for itself, but 34.5% increase in site speed. And then Enso Rings, their conversion rate went up by 26.5%. And then they also saw, the average order value number increase, which is kind of what we talked about a little bit, we saw with the Deloitte study. So all of this means more money in a merchant's pocket, and it's really exciting for merchants as they grow their business. Thanks, everyone. That's my piece. Of course, if you have questions about anything that I talked about today, you can see my email up on the screen. So feel free to reach out. Our sales team has actually also decided to offer discounts for anybody that's part of today's webinar. And so, feel free, if you're interested in going headless, reach out to me and mention that you were part of this webinar, and we'll get you connected with the sales team and get you, I think it was going to be a 10% discount off of going headless. So yeah, please feel free to reach out. Oh, yeah. Goodness. You know what? That is not the right email though.
Yeah.
That is, we're going to have to update
no worries.
Chat or yeah. So
yeah, Philip, don't even worry about it. Just throw your Nacelle email into the chat where they can reach out to you, and then as well as any offers and all that good stuff. Yeah, but no stress.
All right, thanks.
Sure. All right, cool. Yeah, well, thank you very much for that, Phil. No, that was a deep dive into Headless, and I love the case studies too, like, showcase the results of, what you can do with it, and, where brands can go. So yeah, thank you very much. To be honest, there's a ton of questions coming into the chat, and I'm loving seeing it. But so we're going to hop right into Nigel's presentation, because I'm sure he's going to, answer even more questions during his presentation. And yeah, so Nigel, why don't you just take it away?
Thanks, Michael. Can you see my screen?
Good to go.
Cool. Great. Well, yeah. Thanks, Phil. That's really good overview of Headless. Like, I'm probably going to double up a bit, but I'll try and keep it interesting and give some use cases that we've dealt with. We're a company based here in Sydney, Australia. We've been operating for almost 20 years. Very focused on e-commerce. We do a lot around headless these days, where I'd say more of our business is headless than non-headless these days. So it's a really, I guess, growing area that we see a lot of interest in the market for this, because everyone's just trying to get better results for their customers, and this is one way to do it. So I'm going to give you an overview of why I think that's the case. I like to start with a bit of an overview of just how websites have been built since the internet started. I think it gives a lot of context to what Headless is all about. So if we think back to the original kind of setup of websites, we had static HTML files that were linked together just through hyperlinks, very basic code, very lightweight in terms of what had to download through dial-up modems without a lot of bandwidth. And those sites they weren't fast at the time, but they were very lightweight in terms of their demand on the system. As we got more advanced, we would build websites with databases in the back end. So you were editing information into a database. The website would load in the front end. It would pull information out of that database, and it would render that page. And then as technology developed further, APIs became a sort of standard where systems need to connect to each other, and APIs were the structure where you could connect into to systems to get that information. And so this type of dynamic site is something that we still use a lot today, where we're basically building like a front end off a back end, like sourcing information via their APIs. And that's still very, very typical, and there's lots of good use cases for that. What we talk about when we, and Philip mentioned it, is for Headless is doing server-side rendered websites. And what that means is the server is generating what are static HTML files, like the web used to be built as. And those files they're very lightweight. They can be cached on the CDN, so they're close to the user, and that makes it extremely fast to load in the browser. So as time's gone on, we've just kind of chewed up all that bandwidth that's available by creating more and more advanced experiences through the websites. And what Headless does now is it kind of gives all the advantages of all that complexity and all that information that that you want to give to your customers, but it makes the way of distributing that information very simple from a technical point of view. So it takes it back to static HTML, which is super fast to load. So you get that real immediate sense of like almost like an app-like experience as you're browsing a website, which is enjoyable for customers, but it's also impacts conversion rate as Philip's touched on. We've got another slide to reinforce that. So this is showing how site speed impacts conversion rate, and it's a fairly well-known metric that the conversion rate increases as speed increases. And I can't think of anyone that doesn't like speed when it comes to websites. So for us, the company, we really just set our sights on building fast sites as one sort of major metric we go for when we do work for our clients, and that gives that conversion rate, but also just creates a much more enjoyable user experience. So we see a few reasons why people would go headless. So one is for better performance. So going back to that conversion rate metric, just really looking to give the best speed so we can get the best conversions in the website. There's also higher security. With a headless site, you're basically separating that front end that people are loading into their browser from all your systems in the back end. And what that means is the front end isn't kind of loading into your database or through your APIs or anything that is sort of directly into your information. So it means that we can create a more secure, stable site on the front end. You can scale for more users very cheaply. With essentially your site is hosted on a CDN, it's distributed at the edge. You're not putting extra load on your central server when you've got events where there's like a huge increase in traffic. So you don't have those sort of requirements around auto scaling and big infrastructure costs. You have a bit more control over data. I'm going to touch on this a little bit more in more detail, but essentially we're pulling information and data out of the system, which is the best system of record in your backend. So we're not trying to double up or force data through multiple systems. We're more kind of like taking the data from the right system, whether it's inventory or pricing or product information, and then we're building that into the website. So there's a bit better control over data. Strategic advantages. So this is where with all your backend services as a company, you can pick and compose, like composable commerce is a term that's used a lot. This is where you're composing the best tools for your company. The advantage of that is that you can pick the best tools now. As you grow, you might add tools in, you might swap tools out. You might, your business is going to change, your strategies are going to change. And this sort of architecture makes it easier to do that because your front end is separated from those services. So changing any one of them doesn't mean a re-platform project. It means a change to a microservice, and doesn't have that impact on the front end that you would have in a re-platform. One of the things I say to my clients is by going headless, you're essentially investing in your customer experience layer. That's something that companies put a lot of investment into, a lot of optimization. They're always improving what their customer sees. We have clients that are doing a re-platform, and they sort of, when they decided they were going to re-platform, they sort of stopped optimizing their front end. They sort of didn't want to overinvest in that because they were like, well, we're gonna re-platform. We don't want to waste our money. So, and then their customer experience sort of, I guess, momentum dies because they're looking to they don't want to invest in something they're not going to keep. But with headless, you're essentially investing something that you're going to keep and you're going to improve over time and is going to change with your business. So from that point of view, you're really getting something that is going to last for your business, and the services that you put in behind are going to be ones that are going to be the best for your business at that time. And technology changes very fast. You're going to be able to, there's going to be new tools that come out in the future that give you that you'll have the option to use for your business in a way that maybe you wouldn't be able to do it if you weren't headless. And yeah, to my point, that that ability to innovate that customer experience. The front end is essentially your own kind of custom front end. You're not restricted by what a platform might sort of require you to do. We find when we're talking headless with clients, we can say yes to a lot more things because we essentially can build whatever they want from a customer experience point of view. So yeah, some of the cases. So I mean, we do headless re-platform. So we have clients that need to re-platform anyway, and we offer them the choice of going headless and talk them through the benefits. And so that's one case that we see a lot. We also have clients that just simply want a better front end experience. They might feel that they've only got so far with their front end, or they might feel that they've optimized for speed as much as they can and they can't get any further. So headless is a way to do that. Or they might just simply want a design update. And if they're going to do that, they might as well do it with a headless architecture. Thirdly, I've got an optimization strategy. So this is where if you're really going for best performance, best conversion rate, best customer experience, then headless really sets you apart from sort of more dynamic sites. And then the last one I've got is where you might have really heavy content that would otherwise be quite slow to load, but doing a headless really speeds that up. So we've got some examples of that. Also, if you guys want to check this out as we go. So these are two of our clients. So foresitehelmets.com. These guys, their content is super rich, like lots of video, lots of animation, lots of 3D, and you can see as you browse this site, like all that content isn't really impacting your load time, which would really ruin that experience. So we're really getting that polish on the site, even with all those big downloads. And then Video Pro is another one where it's quite a large catalog, lots of brands, lots of categories, lots of different products. Content working with product as well. So that's worth checking out as well, where you can see what a headless site can do when it's like on a big catalog. Foresight Helmets is very sort of small catalog, but lots of content. But yeah, I invite you to check those out as we go, just to kind of experience what a headless site can do. So we kind of see the best fit for headless is where there's ideally there's an internal technical capability. It's not essential, but we find that when there's someone technical within our client that can work with our developers, it really enables a great kind of collaborative project. But yeah, it's not essential, but headless is, I guess, a more technical solution than say a Shopify sort of front end or a BigCommerce front end, because essentially, yeah, there's this layout that requires more sort of developer input to build, but not necessarily to run. So we still set up these sites so that our clients can run them themselves. And we find that what we're doing post-launch is really about like innovating on that. It's not, we're not just sort of supporting the site. We're really able to kind of work quickly and with a lot of agility to improve and optimize their site as well. We tend to do headless for clients that are sort of established and up and running with revenue. It's maybe a little bit more of an investment for like initially, but I think the return on that investment is better over time because you're getting better conversions, but you're also getting you can work quicker. You can, like, the updates we're doing are cheaper because they're not so maybe customizing what a platform is requiring us to do. So you kind of get the return on that capital investment. And then we say, like, it's not really, if you just want to keep it simple, it's not really, headless isn't necessarily the right option. It's more if you're wanting to build best in class, if you want to really create the best outcome for your customers and your business, and you're very focused on that, that's where Headless is a good strategy. But if you just want to keep it simple, like there are solutions where you can really just keep it simple. So this is a sort of typical technical architecture, a tech stack, we call it, where we would have a sort of maybe an ERP with your base information. We might push that through a PIM and then into an e-com platform, which then pushes into a website. And we then have a middleware that might be doing any sort of additional customizations that the platform doesn't necessarily provide, or its connections into other systems that we need to do, like grabbing inventory from an ERP, for example. So this is sort of a typical traditional stack that we would do. And what we're doing here is like pushing data through multiple systems to get it to the front end. And yeah, that middleware can, is used to overcome any limitations of that e-commerce platform, and yet pushing that data through that stack. Now, if we look at a headless stack, it's really about flattening that stack. It's really about drawing the information from the system that has the information. So rather than push that information through 3 systems to get it to the front end, we're taking it out of that system, from its source. And that is really good from a sort of data integrity point of view. We're not sort of having different versions of the same data. We're trying to keep that data in the platform it belongs to. And that really gives us a lot of opportunity to innovate on that front end as well, because we can essentially have more information to work with when we're building the front end customer experience. The performance is through CDN. So as Philip mentioned, you need a CDN to actually host the site at the edge. So it's distributed across the internet, making it a lot faster. In this case, we work with Netlify a lot. It's a technology that hosts the site, provides the CDN, and provides the processes to build the site as a server-side rendered website. The security comes from separating that front end and the back end. So your back end systems are typically SaaS-based systems we work with, but they're sort of disconnected from that front end, making it more secure. The scaling is cheaper, as I mentioned, because we can handle a lot more traffic through that CDN. And drawing from the sources of truth from those microservices. I'm going to show some examples of how this sort of headless architecture enables things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So there's one example we've got where we're sort of hooking straight into Gorgeous as a customer service platform that I'll take you through. So for this client, this is a big commerce site built with a headless architecture, server-side rendered. With this specific use case, we're looking to make the experience of the customer service team better by inbounding any return forms straight into customer service so that they can handle that within their dashboard. So in this case, we've got this is an order history in the customer account. When you click on to return the items, we generate a form, and this is because it's headless, so it's all completely kind of free to do whatever we want. We have a return form that we've built that pulls in the products in that order. They can input information that is useful for the customer service agent. And we then push that straight into, in this case, Gorgeous, where the customer service agent can have all that information. They pull up the data that's connected from BigCommerce as well and joins that together. And it just makes it very simple for that customer service agent to handle that request. Another option here is where this is the same site, BigCommerce. BigCommerce has wish lists, but not for guests. It's like the wish lists are within a customer account. So what we've done is created this guest wish list feature where customers can save to wish list. That creates that short list, and then when the customer reviews that shortlist, they can either add all to cart or save to wish list. And at that point, we can then build that, that customer account and save that into their account. So it's just like little optimizations like that that are possible because of Headless. And it's very enjoyable to work with because of that. So when we assessed Headless, like a couple of years ago, we looked at different front end options out there, different ways to do Headless. And the front ends for Headless is there's different options. There's like a PWA, there's a server-side rendered page. That's sort of what we tend to do. Essentially, there's different ways to create that head. What we've built is what we call Jam. Jam is based on a Jam stack. It's a technology, it's basically a headless sort of development technology. And our Jam solution is essentially a way to build these headless sites. This is our Jam solution with all the technologies that we use within this. And so this diagram shows the different back-end technologies that we can pull together. So typically it's like one of the technologies in each of these boxes, or sometimes one of the boxes isn't necessary. Like a PIM, for example, isn't always necessary, so we don't necessarily put that in there. But essentially, these are all sort of what I'd call best in breed technologies in the market right now. And what we've done is pull them together as a solution, which means we can do like that data orchestration, the website generation, and then the hosting of the site, sort of as a solution, almost out of the box. Like we've sort of done that work to make this solution more accessible and faster to implement. So this is what we work with, and we're always sort of adding more solutions into that as well to flesh that out. But yeah, I invite you to have a look at the examples that I showed you to see what that can actually generate. We are just about to launch a free theme through Netlify. It should go live in the next week. This is an e-commerce theme that you can download for free. It's a GitHub repo that you can get. And you can then use that to build a headless site. We'll, of course, have this available with all the back-end connections as well. So if you're interested, just please reach out to me. I can help you sort of understand what this setup means. But we've got a really beautiful theme. We're really excited to launch this. And it's something that, anyone can take and build their own site with. But we can build it with the architecture behind it as well. So so thanks for your time, everyone. Please get in contact with me if you have any questions, and really excited to see some of the questions come through on the chat. So I'll be answering some of them as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nigel. That was fantastic. And I especially love seeing the images you used of Headless in action, and the gorgeous integration and everything. So I actually have a few questions for you, but we have about 25 minutes left. So let's kick it off straight to Zach, but I do have some questions for you, Nigel, that I do want to ask, but I want to have plenty of time for the Q&A. So thank you again, and Zach, why don't you take it away? So and please ask questions for Nigel in the chat. We're all here to help.
Yeah, what I really loved about what Nigel and Philip have both talked about is these small adjustments that you can make to increase your optimization and to increase your conversion, right? It's like make all of these small adjustments to your website that are just they're almost like conversion crumbs to build a conversion cake. And that's what we're all talking about here. And so with Justuno, we're all about CRO. We're all about on-site messaging and helping increase your conversion opportunities and helping you get that return on investment after going headless or moving into the e-commerce atmosphere if you haven't made that jump yet. But what we see here at Justuno is that data shows from the headless websites that use Justuno that having that on-site messaging just improves and expedites the ability to gather more of that zero and first-party data, improve and reduce visitors from leaving your site. So really surface a lot of that great design work and that speed that you've put into with maybe moving into headless, but also improve the email and SMS flows and custom content to increase those open rates for your emails and your SMS and build on that lifetime value of your visitors. But ultimately, it's to improve what we've all talked about, which is conversions, right? We all care about conversions and seeing that return on investment, especially if you've moved forward with going headless. So having a headless is going to increase the site speed. We've heard that, right? Site speed, as you've heard from both Nigel and Philip, is one of the key components to increasing your conversion opportunity. So Justuno's on-site message, that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to reduce any conversion friction. We're looking to expedite that conversion journey. If you've seen with Justuno, one of the competitive separators that we have is our design options, right? We want to be able to help you match that great customization that you've done as you've transitioned to going to headless. We also want to provide that we've got more customized targeting options, right? We've got over 80 plus ways to target specific customer journeys that can supercharge the apps that you're already integrated with. So use on-site messaging to surface those brand separators, surface those often, improve that accurate messaging to target specific visitor journeys. The data that we've seen in CRO data in general allows for pieces that you need to use to create that e-commerce optimization strategy, right? So visitor journey targeting, that's key to help improve any type of conversion opportunity that you're looking to focus on. Is that driving people towards a new inventory page? Is that driving people from your blog page to a bestsellers page or to a deals page or maybe a bundles page that you've just implemented? But data has shown and proved that that omni-channel marketing approach increases visitor data touch points, which also increases conversion opportunities. It also increases the data that you have on that on-site messaging so that you can optimize that. So having on-site messaging that provides additional conversion data for all the different visitor journeys, such as maybe new visitors, return visitors that have never made purchase before, or visitors coming from a specific Google ad or social media paid ad, that increases the conversion opportunity because you're providing on-site messages that provide relevant content and consistent incentives to improve that visitor experience and ultimately increase your conversions. So here we're looking at Mineral Health, and we're also looking at Enjoy Hemp. These are both CBD sites. Mineral Health, they have a headless site, and Mineral Health is great. It's got a page size at about 1 MB versus the recommended 3 MB or below, but page requests and page speed could be better. At 81 HTTPS, requests are slowing it down, so it could stand to reduce a little bit of the file load, but best-in-class pages should be interactive within about 5.3 seconds, but theirs are at about 7.6 seconds, so lowering that sales and conversion opportunity, right? So they have opportunity. At business owners, we all have opportunity, so evaluate that within yourself and get help with that, right? So here we're looking at the website, and we're looking at Enjoy Hemp in the home page. We're also looking at this gamification, this lead capture option. And we've also seen down here at the bottom that they use a dynamic shipping banner. So what they're looking to do there is to increase their average order value, but also gather data around that on-site experience and that on-site message. But the homepage is static with the typical elements, hero image, carousel, products, etc., with little movement or little custom experience, right? So the added oomph visually usually comes from their promotions, right? Their on-site messaging, the exit offer. It's a slot machine. These type of visitors, they're gathering data. Do they enjoy this bit of gamification, this bit of engagement? That dynamic shipping banner, it updates the visitor to know as they add items to cart how much they have left to achieve that free shipping. We all know free shipping is one of the main reasons people will abandon an item in cart. So if you can't offer at least a threshold for someone to achieve it, and then create a bit of a gamification with that, if you will, with the countdown as far as their cart amount, you're missing out on a huge opportunity that we at Justuno have seen a lot of websites implement. So those add to the shopper experience, and they enforce the conversion as that visitor travels further and further down the conversion funnel. So product description pages, you'll see that same feel to the website. The journey between pages is much more standardized and static than a headless site could provide, right? So this is another example of adding visuals and movement to the experience with their promotion. This is a lead capture here, and it's bright. It jumps off the page. It's got that feel to the CBD company that they're providing with their brand identity, right? But it grabs your attention. Not to mention, it's a great example of collecting first-party and zero-party data by letting the shopper indicate what's their end product goal. What does Zach want more information about? What's going to increase that open rate and that engagement? Well, Zach wants to know more about the energy CBD product, but Enjoy Hemp is creating a great experience for their customers with their platform and augmenting it with the capability via these third-party tools that you're seeing here with Justuno. Mineral Health. Here we go. Now we're looking at a headless site, right? Mineral Health's website landing page and lead capture example is what we're looking at. And there's movement here. There's a large degree of customization here. They're standing out from the crowd. It's a great way to increase that brand recognition that we're all fighting to win as e-commerce owners, right? And creating a unique experience for every visitor as they navigate the Mineral Health website and learn more about the product and move further down the conversion funnel. There's movement in both landing pages, product pages that encompasses the Mineral Health, you know, that minimalist brand, that kind of modern feel and that brand aesthetic. Movement and customization allows for the visitor to keep the brand more on top of mind, right? We're keeping the visitor engaged. Their eyes are constantly here looking for the next piece of valuable information to hold on to. Is there something here that I missed that I should know about my product? You know, Mineral Health, what we're also looking at here is they've got a age verification gate, and that's great for these type of products, right? This is specific. This helps with their compliance. You know, it leads into the lead capture that matches that, again, modern minimalist branding. And then when we look at the exit offer, it's got just that slightly higher offer and incentive compared to the lead capture. You know, they're looking to save the sale and have that option to create a same session conversion. So this tiered approach from lead capture to a higher incentive with an exit offer, that's something that we highly recommend, and you'll see in a lot of our use cases when you travel to Justuno and look through some of those. Another great example of a client who's creating a completely on-brand customer journey on a headless site is another CBD gummy retailer, Sunday Scaries, right? And these CBD companies, like we're all seeing, are just booming and expanding, but their headless site features a number of unique elements, including movement on home pages, animation added to buttons to drive desired visitor actions, and more. So their goal with Justuno was simple: lead capture, right? List growth. They were confident that their branding and the product would take care of the rest. So targeting specific product pages and cart page with traffic lead captures to collect high intent subscribers, you know, to help push those subscribers further down the conversion funnel and ultimately build on that return purchase and that lifetime value customer. Here we're looking at on-site messaging, you know, will help keep up with those advanced on-site headless experiences that you've built. So these landing pages, you'll need to have targeted promotions, whether based on traffic source or ad campaign, or maybe email or SMS campaign. Even, you know, something like geo-targeting, you know, Europe versus the Americas. Not to mention that while an advanced website experience can skyrocket your conversions, you'll also want to make sure that you're, you know, playing the long game and collecting that zero-party data, not relying on third-party apps anymore that maybe we relied on a year or two ago. You can do that with Justuno, and we're having, you know, hundreds of thousands of clients do that daily. So finally, the design flexibility within Justuno, that unique visitor journey targeting, that's the key to using the right CRO platform So we urge you to visit justuno.com, reach out to myself or Michael with any questions. More than anything, we just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to learn about Headless. I learned a lot from Philip. I learned a ton of information from Nigel, and it's been great seeing all the results from our shared accounts that we have with Nacelle and with Matter Design.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. Yeah, love those examples as well. And Nigel, I'm pretty sure that was a still image, not a GIF, because I was a bit confused too. But yeah, that was great. So we have about 12 or so minutes left, and I have a number of questions. If anyone in the audience has any questions at all, throw them in there so we can get those answered live. But Nigel, I want to start with you, and it's actually about Jam. So I was curious, like, what was the inspiration behind it, and like what kind of made you create that sort of architecture?
Yeah, I guess we've been implementing sites for our clients for years, and optimizing them and getting the most performance, and running performance sort of reports and things like that. And we just found we could only get so far with a sort of front end that's off a platform. And that would bum us out, it'd bum the client out, it'd be sort of something that we would just wasn't quite sort of enough for us. So we were like, well, how can we build, like, what would it take to build the faster sites? And so that's what got us onto this. We use a technology called Gatsby. Gatsby is basically generates these server-side rendered sites, takes all that information, does that build process, what you would typically see happen within your browser. It does that ahead of time, builds out the whole site so that when you're loading the browser, a page in the browser, that build has happened already. It's just loading the HTML code essentially. And it just makes it super fast. And as I sort of thought about this more and thought about, like, how does Google reward, like, what does Google score well in terms of their Lighthouse scores? And they score really basic websites really well, like, without a lot of content. And, we're building content rich sites. So it's not like we're going to score 100 because we're not building a Google search page. Or one of the examples I like is Berkshire Hathaway has a site that looks like it's out of the 90s. It's still got kind of blue hyperlinks and Times New Roman, and it scores 100. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of your benchmark. Like, that's what Google is going to rate the best. They're bringing out, they're going to rank sites better that perform well. So, like, why are they pushing this so much? Like, what is, that's the example there. So that scores very well on Lighthouse, but if that was your e-commerce store, I don't think a lot of merchants these days would be happy with that sort of site. So essentially with Google sort of pushing down this path of, like, customer experience and rewarding that in its ranking, we were thinking, well, what does it take to align with that? What is it that they're trying to achieve across the internet to create better customer experiences, and how can we build sites that fit with that? And this sort of headless architecture, server-side rendered static sites is the way to do that. And so while still having a lot of content, a lot of information, and a lot of dynamic elements to the site. So that was our inspiration. We probably got that a couple of years ago, and then we spent 2 years kind of working on this solution that delivers this.
Right. But I guess you can kind of do whatever you want when you're worth over $100 billion. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that explanation. That's really good. And I believe Bianca from your team threw that in the chat. So if you are curious about that, please go check that out. That looks great. So we got about 10 minutes left, and there's two really, really interesting questions actually about the first one. Let me pull this up again. So I'm not sure who asked it. It was anonymous, but it's a bit of a long one, so I can repeat this if you guys like, but I would like to hear from all of y'all. But they wanted to know, is there payment connectivity available outside of Shopify? Because Shopify is basically a white labeled Stripe and very expensive for merchants getting to scale. So using third-party gateways via Shopify is not cost effective for a merchant. They would think that Headless was enabling any payment connection to seamlessly integrate to let that merchant take advantage of the direct negotiated contract with their PSP. So they just kind of want to hear your thoughts. I'm happy to repeat that.
Yeah, I can jump in real quick. So Shopify has set things up to kind of make sure that they're making money. And so if you're not using Shopify payments, you're paying, like pretty high additional transaction fee, depending on what plan you're on, to just use Shopify generally. And if you are using Shopify payments, then you're probably paying more than what you might be able to pay with another provider. So the question here is, how do I get away from Shopify payments? And perhaps the follow-up question is, how do I also, once I get away from Shopify payments, not have to pay a transaction fee? And so the answer to the first question is getting away from Shopify payments is like, if you're using another payment gateway, whether that's Recharge or Bold or any other payment provider that takes you to another checkout, that's a good solution to get out of Shopify's checkout and to use another payment provider. But getting away from the transaction fee, I think for a long time that was possible because you were actually being taken to another checkout. So Shopify actually wouldn't be able to track that transaction. Now, just as of recently, they've rolled out selling plans, and it looks like they're going to be able to kind of see that. And so you're going to end up needing to pay transaction fees. So then the follow-up solution is, okay, somebody's mentioning Shopify just changed your policy though, and adds if you use another payment gateway. I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, so if you're using Shopify payments, or sorry, that caused me to lose a little bit of track of where I was going with this. So your, goodness, where am I going? Transaction fees, you don't have to pay an additional 1% if you were previously going to a different checkout, but now you will have to anyway because of selling plans. So then the solution becomes separating yourself completely from Headless, which is one of the benefits that we were talking about, or separating yourself completely from Shopify, which is one of the benefits that we were talking about by going Headless, because you can be totally composable and you could stop eventually using Shopify completely. You don't need Shopify maybe anymore. If you're not using Shopify for your checkout, then you can replace Shopify for, managing your products and managing your orders and managing your customers, and you can replace Shopify completely. And so that's one way going forward to stop paying for inflated Shopify payment fees. And then if you are not using Shopify payments, then stop paying transaction fees. I hope that answers the question. I know it was a little bit long-winded and I got lost halfway through, but
no, that was great. Thank you, Philip. Yeah, and I just saw, Nigel, you answered that question from Robin. Robin, let us know if you wanted any further explanation there or anything. But since we have just a few more minutes left, I'm going to launch one quick poll for those who are still left. And that's just a quick, want to know who you'd like to hear from a panelist. But one question I thought was very interesting is tips on convincing, I guess this is for larger brands, which, for mostly Headless anyway, tips on convincing C-suite, executives to go Headless, and also like what that looks like most often, who might bring it up. And then I guess, Nigel, this is probably mostly for you, what you see happen there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, executives, they're running business, they want business outcomes. I think with Headless, it's all about setting the business up for the best success. It's like best success now, but also in the future. Re-platforms, for example, are expensive in terms of time as well as cost. So, and I think, a lot of businesses have experienced that. Like, when's the new site coming up? When's it, when's that going to happen? And it's like, it's a big sort of, multiple months, sometimes years of planning to get that done. So I think that agility that you get with Headless, that ability to sort of stay current with technology, and then just simply being able to create the best customer experience is hands down, like sort of like load a headless site versus a non-headless site, see what you think type conversation. And people can see for themselves, it's much more enjoyable browsing a site that's fast.
And as a really quick follow-up there too, who do you find typically pushes the hardest for going headless? What if it's sales team, marketing, their technology team? What do you see the most often?
I mean, we see the sort of technical people more excited initially about Headless because they're like, and we have like developers approach us because we're doing Headless sort of work, and they're like, oh, I see that this is where the internet's going, like this is what I want to do, so I want to work with you guys. So this sort of Jamstack architecture is something that the very technical people are really jumping on board with. I think in other departments, people are just educating themselves and understanding what it actually means, and understanding like why would you, like what's the benefit, what does that mean for my company. I see, once the penny drops, and yeah, I've been working, like we've done sort of Jamstack for 2 years. We've been working Headless for about 4 years with like WordPress and BigCom. So we've been on the journey for a long time, but like it's really just kind of crystallized for me in the last couple of years. So it does take some time to just really kind of see it clearly. So yeah, and that can happen at different times for different people.
Gotcha. Thank you for the in-depth response. Philip, do you have any input there, just out of curiosity?
No, I think you covered it really well there, Nigel.
Cool. Just wanted to make sure. I don't want to make sure you exclude anyone. So we're about a minute left, and so I think that actually kind of wraps us up pretty well. But I have one final question, which is most likely the most important question to be asked. What is your favorite color and why? I'm just kidding. No, I think that's purposely. I want to thank our awesome panelists for coming out, especially Nigel for waking up so early. I think it's 7 a.m. there right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you all again. And I want to thank all of our attendees for showing up. Really good questions in here. I will be sending out this recording tomorrow. Please email Philip, Nigel, and Zach if you have any questions on this. As you can see, like they're super knowledgeable. They want to tell you about it, all of it. So yeah, thank you all so much. And if our panelists want to say bye real fast, that'd be great. Yeah. Cool. All right.
Thanks,
everyone.
Thanks.
See you guys.